Okay, so let's talk about operations management. It's a term you hear thrown around all the time, right? But what does that actually mean for a career? Like, where are the OM jobs? Well, today, we're going to cut through all that jargon and find out. I mean, it's such a broad term, isn't it? Operations can feel kind of vague. So, what we're going to do in this explainer is put on our detective hats. We're going to dive into some real job ads to figure out what these careers really look like on a day-to-day basis. All right, so let's start at the top. One of the biggest, most visible parts of operations is all about leadership. We're talking about managing the people and the place where all the magic happens, the plant. So check this out. Our first example is a job ad for a plant manager at a Fortune 1000 company. This is like a classic high-stakes OM role. Let's really break down what a job like this involves. You know, a good way to think of a plant manager is like the conductor of an orchestra. They're not just playing one instrument. Their job is to make sure the entire performance is perfect. So they're involved in, well, pretty much everything: planning, purchasing materials, managing inventory, and maybe most importantly, leading the actual people who make it all happen. Yeah, so this is definitely not an entry-level gig, right? It takes some serious experience. But look at what's really key here. It's the people skills. You just can't run a plant from behind a desk looking at a spreadsheet. You've got to be out there on the floor actually leading your team. Okay, but operations isn't just about leading the teams on the ground. A huge part of it is making the entire system smarter, more efficient. And that brings us to our second big category, the process improvers. This is really where the analysts and the auditors get to shine. Now, here we've got two roles that on the surface look pretty different, but they share the exact same goal: making things work better. On one hand, we have an operations analyst for a coffee shop, and on the other, a quality manager for a much, much bigger company. And this comparison is perfect because it really shows you the two different scales of process improvement. It's like the analyst is using a microscope, you know? They're digging into the nitty-gritty details of a single store, stuff like work methods, ergonomics, all that. But the quality manager, they're using a telescope. They're looking at the huge, big picture across tons of facilities, auditing whole systems and digging through massive databases. But here's the thing. Whether you're using a microscope or a telescope, the goal is exactly the same. It's all about using data to find the problems, to find the weak spots in a system, and then figuring out how to fix them and make everything stronger. All right, so we've looked inside the company, right? We've talked about leadership and improving processes, but a massive part of operations involves looking outside the company's walls. We're talking about managing the entire supply chain, everything from the very first supplier all the way to the final customer. And that leads us perfectly to our last job ad, the supply chain and planner. This role is absolutely critical. This person is the essential link between the company and all of its suppliers. So the workflow for a planner is this constant, continuous loop. It really starts with building relationships and negotiating contracts. Then you get into the super detail-oriented work, making sure purchasing and invoices are accurate. And from there, you're using feedback to get better, to master the scheduling. And all of this hard work is driving toward one simple goal: get the best possible price and the best delivery every single day. So what does it take to do this job? What's in the planner's toolkit? Well, it's that classic mix of hard skills and soft skills. You absolutely need the technical know-how, things like MRP, which is material requirements planning, and systems like Oracle. But, and this is a big but, just as important are those communication skills. You have to be able to negotiate with suppliers and coordinate everything with your own team. Okay, so we've just looked at three pretty different slices of the operations management pie. We've got the leaders, the analysts, and the planners. So now let's zoom out a bit and try to connect the dots. What are the common threads here? What ties all of these different jobs together? So if we lay it all out, it looks something like this. You have the plant manager, who's all about directing with leadership. You have the analysts, who are auditing with data. Then you have the planner, who's coordinating everything through negotiation. See? They each have their own special focus, but they're all essential gears in the same big operational machine. And you know what? If we boil it all down even further, we start to see these universal skills pop up again and again. It didn't matter which job ad we looked at. Communication was always essential. So was analytical problem-solving thinking. And of course, understanding process management and having some tech skills. These, right here, these are the fundamental building blocks for a career in OM. So at the end of the day, when you strip everything else away, what is operations management really about? It's actually pretty simple. Whether you're the one leading the team or analyzing the data or negotiating with a supplier, your job, your entire goal is to make things work better, faster, and more efficiently. That's it. That's the core of the whole thing. And that brings us to one last question, and this one's for you to think about. After seeing these different paths, which one kind of sparks your interest? Do you see yourself as the leader, the analyst, or maybe the planner? Because the great thing about the world of operations is that there's a place for all of them.